Alright, so I just watched the what is going to be part one of this video, and because as I mentioned in that one, I don't have my Adobe subscription is currently out of service, and I had tried using another app for stitching videos together, but it took up so much memory space that I had to get rid of it. So I'm just gonna have to make a second part to this video because I felt like I just did not cover enough of the subject matter that I wanted to cover in that part. And since I'm not going to be stitching these together, this is going to be part two of my relationship to my penis. So I did talk about like my experiences in the past, like one night stands with men, not being able to get an erection for them, first dates with women, not being able to get an erection, and that sort of thing, and also how kind of like once a relationship was established, like once I dated the girl for like 2 weeks, and after 2 weeks, when I felt like okay, this is safe, she's kind of here for there's something's kind of solid here to hold on to. Then I was okay with sex, and we just kind of, you know, just went at it without any reserves or whatever. All of that I mentioned was before I came to the realization or the idea that I'm trans. So I did not. That's where I'm a little bit like I kind of feel like there needs to be a part two to this video because everything I mentioned in that one was before that. So I did mention that the girl who was the love of my life that I was never actually able to be in a relationship with, she was with a boyfriend when I met her. We did go on several dates together despite the fact that she was with a boyfriend. But it just ended up just not working out. And that was one of the things that led me to the idea that I was trans. It was largely the fantasies that I had about her. I did not, when it came to fantasies about her, despite the fact that I was head over heels in love with her, I did not think about having sex with her. I even had a dream once, like an actual, like during my sleep dream, not a waking fantasy, that I had gone home to my father's house, and she was there waiting for me. That she had gotten there before me, knowing that I was coming to his house. But she'd gotten there maybe days before me and had been living in my father's house. Like I had been apparently I'd just been gone for a while. Like I think that maybe this was maybe a year or two after I'd gotten out of the army, and maybe in my head like I'm still not in the area or whatever. But so I had this dream that I go to my dad's house. She's there. She's been staying there with him for a while. He's been letting her stay there because he knows that she is in love with me. And which was not something that in real life was necessarily the case, because in real life he had never actually met her. So unless she somehow got his number and called him up and said, "I'm in love with your son," then I don't know how he would have known that in real life. But in the dream, he had caught wind of that. He realized there was a love there. He's letting her stay there in his house, in the spare bedroom. I see her there. I lose my shit. I'm just like, oh my God. Oh my God. Like this is the best day of my life kind of thing. When I see her, she's coming out of the shower. Coming out of the bathroom, just having had taken a shower. She's got a towel wrapped around her. Her hair's still wet. She sees me, I see her, and it's just like, we need to go to the bedroom. Like right this minute. Like I know I just walked in the door. My dad's here. I just walked in the door, but we need to go straight to the bedroom right now. And so she goes into the bedroom. I go into the bedroom behind her. I shut the door. She turns around and faces me, kind of like she's standing in front of the bed. She's facing me, so like I could just lay down, just like right on top of her on the bed. if I wanted to. But in that moment, I did not know what I wanted to do. And the dream ended. So she's standing there looking at me just like she is just ready, to just for whatever. And I'm like, what is it? Why am I not seeing the next scene in that movie? If this is a movie that I'm watching, it's like the scene is like, what comes next? Uh, so it wasn't that dream that led me to the idea that I'm trans, but just some of the other fantasies that I had when I was awake, where I would see us kind of in these romantic situations where I might be wearing like a nightgown, like a see-through kind of woman's thing. I'm like, where's this coming from? Or why did that pop in my head? I once fantasized about us together as two fish, where I smacked her with my fishtail to get her to chase after me, and she was, I'm like leading her on a chase, and I just kind of felt like, that sounds a little bit like something the girlfriend would do, not the boyfriend. So what's going on here? But after a while, I started to think that what I wanted from her was something close to a lesbian relationship, and but I never got to have that with her. I never got to have anything like the relationship that I wanted with her, because after we did go on a few dates, but after a while, I got to the point where I had to end it because I just felt like there was too much tension. It was like I kind of felt like it got to the point where I felt like I needed some kind of boundary. Like, if we're going to be just friends, then let's just be just friends. But I don't want to be going out with you while you're dating this other guy and you and I are kissing and holding hands, but that's all we're doing. It's like, I'm okay with being just friends, or I'm okay with being lovers, but I don't want to be in this in-between state where you're kissing me, but then you're going back to your boyfriend, and you and I are not having the full relationship that we could have. But what does that mean? I don't know. So that's why I ended it. I was like, I have to, for my own sanity, I need to move on to something else. She did contact me again later, and years later, saying she wanted to see me again, and I agreed to it, thinking maybe I have a second chance, but then she ended it, so I don't know. But anyways, I think part of the reasons that I'm talking about that is I have this suspicion that she might actually watch this. I don't know. But, so fast forward 5 or 6 years from that point. A few other experiences that I have during the following years make me start to think that I'm trans. And then I actually try cross-dressing. After all this time, I was about 39 years old. And I finally, I'm like, I think I need to try expressing myself as a woman, seeing myself as a woman. So I went and bought a dress. I went and bought makeup. Eventually I bought a wig. At first, I think I didn't have a wig. I think I just used the dress and makeup first. But from the very beginning, one of the things that stood out, one of the things that I noticed when I started doing the cross-dressing thing, like I remember there was an instance where I looked at myself in the mirror and saw a woman looking back at me, and I felt this like untangling of knots in my abdomen. It was like right down here there was this, for years and years and years, there was something that had just kind of gotten tangled up into a knot inside in whatever you want to, I don't know what you want to call it, my spiritual center, I don't know. And but it started to kind of just come undone. I started to feel like I can relax, because prior to that I was in a kind of constant state of anxiety, mild state of panic for my entire life. Like I would remember like trying to take naps when I was in my 20s, like just feeling exhausted and like taking a mattress outside to try to lay down, next to the trees and stuff to try to whatever, and just being like something inside me is just like shaking almost. It's like I just can't fucking sit still. But when I saw myself as a woman, that was one of the things that made me think that I was trans. Was that just that relaxation that happened when I first saw myself as a woman, and but that was also accompanied by, when that relaxation happened, that blood started to flow to my groin, and I started to feel aroused. Not just aroused, but I also started to feel like now I am ready for sex. And it was as though all those years in the past, when I was having these anxieties about being able to perform, it was in some way, like I wasn't ready for sex then. And once I saw myself as a woman, that's when I started to feel like now I am ready for sex. But it did manifest as me getting aroused and starting to get erections and things like that. I never got an erection just by seeing myself as a woman, but I would get that kind of blood flow to my dick. And it did happen. That so the Shortly after that, I was hanging out with a friend of mine. It was a big black guy who was a bisexual man who I used to go to bars with a lot, and I went to bars with him just because he was very easy to talk to. I don't remember going to bars with him thinking I'm going to hook up with this guy eventually. And but we used to it was just kind of like he and I were kind of in a similar situation where I would go to bars a lot of times by myself, and so would he. And it was, I might call him up and be like, "Are you out tonight? I'm over here at whatever blah 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 bar. If you want to hang out." And one night he says to me, "You want to go to my friend's house? We got some cocaine." And I'm like, "Yeah, sure." This was after I started cross dressing when this happened, and so this was like maybe 6 or 7 years ago. And so I'm like, "But let me stop and get some stuff from my apartment." So I wanted to get a wig and a skirt and some fishnet stockings that I had bought, and because that was stuff I didn't want to wear to the bar, and but in the privacy of his friend's house, I thought it would be all right to wear this, and I knew he was okay with it because I think he and I had talked about it. And so I go to his friend's house with him, and I put on this outfit, the fishnet stockings and the skirt and the wig, makeup too, maybe, I don't remember. We were doing the cocaine, but the cocaine was worthless. Like I must have snorted like 4 or 5 lines and not felt anything from it. So I think he just gotten gypped, or I don't know what, but it didn't ruin the night. We were still having a pretty good time talking and that kind of thing. And we were sitting on a couch, and I'm dressed like a girl, sitting here talking to this guy and his friend, and for whatever reason, I started to feel kind of flirtatious with this guy who, like I said, I really did not see myself hooking up with. But so at one point, I'm sitting on this couch and I just spin around and put my legs over across his lap, so that I'm basically laying down on the couch, or not laying down necessarily, but like kind of reclined on the couch with my legs across him. And when I did that, I was like, well, I kind of feel like I'm flirting here, and I'm not sure why I'm doing this. But then the very next thing that happened was I started to get an erection right there, just by laying my legs across his lap, which for me was totally unusual. I was like, I've never gotten an erection for a man before. Uh, you know, even when he had his mouth on my dick, I didn't get an erection for him. So this was a little bit like, what just happened? Why? For one, why did I feel the need to put my legs across his lap? And the other thing was, why did I get an erection just from doing it? Apparently, it had something to do with the fact that I was dressed like a girl, and so that was kind of where a lot of this kind of like confusion comes from. Is like, maybe I am meant to use my penis, but maybe I have to use it as a woman. Does that make sense? Like, it's maybe this gender expression is somehow part and parcel of my ability to have healthy sexual relationships. Uh, and there were other things that I read about. Uh, that made me think that was the case. There were just stories that I'd read about. There was a story from India. I can't remember the names of the characters from the story, but there was a guy who tried to rape a goddess, and the goddess punished him by making him impotent. He could not get an erection. And so the guy tried to make amends with the goddess. He said, he's like, I am so sorry. He's like, but please give me my potency back. And the goddess was like, all right. She said, I'll give it back to you, but you have to dress like a woman. You have to basically start acting like a woman. And so the man did that, and he got his ability to use his penis back. But it was kind of on the condition that he dressed as a woman. And so even though that was considered like a fairy tale, kind of folk tale, mythological tale, whatever you want to call it, I read that as this is basically a transgender woman's story. This was that was basically a story about me. I had tried to rape a goddess, that I was basically, and by trying to rape the goddess, meaning that I was trying to force fate in my direction, and fate was like, nope, that's not your direction. So, and fate took my penis away. There's another story like that from Norse mythology, but I don't want to take the time to tell that story. It was a story about Thor and how he lost his hammer and he got it back by cross-dressing and marrying the giant who took his hammer. So I'm not going to try to explain why I interpret that to be about a man regaining his ability to get an erection by dressing as a woman, but because that is an interpretation. But so there were a few things, just those things, my own experiences, that made me start to think that maybe I am meant to use my penis, but maybe it is the case that I have to express my feminine side in order to be able to do it. Or to do it the way that I find satisfying, because like I said, I'd had relationships with women in the past, sexual relationships, where I felt like I was not getting what I wanted. And it could just be that it's because I wasn't being a woman then, if that makes sense. Now that may not make sense to some people. They may be like, what difference does it make if you're a man or if you're a woman, as long as you're putting your penis inside the girl? I don't know. I haven't done it since I started doing this. I mean, since I've been taking hormones, now that I have breasts, and if I were to go be with a woman now, like with this get up on, with the makeup on, and the boobs and that kind of thing, I'm not sure what would happen. I don't know how it would go. It could be a totally validating experience. It could be a totally nerve-wracking experience because one of the issues with taking hormones is that it does make it more difficult to get an erection. And so for somebody who already has difficulty getting erections, like on first dates and that kind of thing, uh, there is that kind of like, I don't even know if I want to try it at the moment. You know, I kind of feel like maybe I should get through some psychological stuff here first before I try that, or I should just work on establishing some relationships, and then once the relationships are established, then maybe trying the sex act and seeing how it goes. It could be that I discover that I was born to be a woman with a penis. That is my fate. That is what God put me on this earth for. Is to go around pleasing all the women, even the ones who have penises. Those women who think they're men, you know, like the big tough guys. They think they're men, but they're really somewhere inside them is a vagina, and it's waiting for my penis. And it will love it because I'm a woman. Their vagina says, I'll put out, I'll take it, but I don't want to take it from a woman because I don't want to take it from a man. I don't know. I'm just making that up. But yeah, so that was something that I noticed once I started cross-dressing was that it happened not consistently, but it happened often. That I would dress up as a woman and I would get these feelings of arousal, feelings of like, now I am ready for sex. But I still don't have clarity. Like, I don't have fantasies now where I'm like, I'm ready to go have sex with a woman now. I'm ready to go use my penis and put it in a man's butt. It comes up, like I made a video yesterday about this, about how I was in the bathroom and looking at myself kind of in the mirror, looking like this, or similar to this. I wasn't wearing this outfit, but and I just started humping the bathroom sink, and in my head I'm seeing a man bent over the bathroom sink, and he's like like a powerful man, like a senator or something, and he's just like, oh my God, this gorgeous trans woman is I'm taking it in the butt from this gorgeous trans woman. This is so fantastic. Which was not, I'm like, where did that come, was that, I didn't feel aroused by that, but I was amused by that. And I was kind of like, this is kind of funny to watch, and kind of in my head as this movie. Like that is a porn that I would want to see. Like I said, I wasn't aroused, but I didn't actually get an erection to that. But I just felt like I would like to see that porn. I want, and I actually kind of want to see myself in that porn, where like I'm just kind of, I'm not bad looking. When I'm looking at myself now, I don't feel like I'm bad looking, but I'm not quite as good looking as I feel like I would want to be in that porn. But I kind of want to see that porn of this good looking trans woman who has this. Pick your senator. Who Bernie Sanders. Bernie Sanders, how much time do I have? I got three or so minutes. I got like 2 minutes. So I got Bernie Sanders bent over the bathroom sink, and I'm just like, yeah. It does not arouse me. It does not. I don't know if I can get off to that image, but it amuses me. So I'm not entirely sure what that's about, but and then I was watching tranny porn before I made the first part to this part one. Before I recorded that one, well, actually, that was the third take. So it was the two before that. I was watching a trans woman with a penis penetrating a man. And him just thoroughly enjoying it, and I was watching that thinking, is that my future? Is that kind of the direction that I'm going? As I said in part one, when I've been with men before, I could not get an erection, And so there have been lots of times when I've thought maybe I'm just not meant to have a penis. Maybe the vagina is what I was meant for. And so a lot of times when I'm questioning this whole thing of being trans, that is kind of what I'm questioning: is am I meant to have a vagina? Is that my true, real self desire? Uh, but like watching that porn, trying to masturbate to it, I just couldn't do it. I just felt like there's just a kind of coldness. It's almost like something inside me is saying that's you don't want to masturbate to porn. You want a real relationship. Don't be in here wasting your time trying to masturbate to porn. Go find a real relationship. Whatever, I don't know, but I just couldn't get into it. And when it comes to porn, this is something that I've talked about with a friend of mine, because he believes that your sexual fantasy is a kind of indication of who you are, especially in terms of gender. But like when I watch porn, I don't see whether it's straight porn, gay porn, tranny porn. I just when I watch it, I don't feel like that's me. That is my path. And I do feel like the trans stuff is closer to it. I do feel like that, but yeah, I don't know. The question of whether I need to have a penis or not is still I just not answered. So I'm about to run out of time. So hopefully part two was a little bit more added, just a little bit of elucidation to that. The idea here is that the trans thing has changed how I saw my relationship to my penis, the way I saw it from before.